Very excited about this presentation, about this panel discussion, where we'll have iLima Digital Foundry, iBuild Global, Empowa, 14 Trees, and Foundary together, talking about how we make high-tech work for low income.
So, okay, we're in the show. Hello, Keisha. Hello, everybody. Great to be with you again the next year. Obviously, we'll introduce our very exciting panel. Thanks again for giving us the opportunity to present the role of technology in all of this. And first of all, obviously, as part of New Frontiers in Affordable Housing in Africa, such an important conference, the AUHF, and we congratulate you, obviously, Keisha, for a start, for putting it all together, putting all the energy. And I've been able to attend a number of the sessions this morning. And I must admit, if I look at just the launch of the yearbook, if I look at the UN Habitat, a lot of activities happening and great progress. So looking forward. Welcome to all the audience. I think this is one of the going to be exciting topic. I can assure you the panel people that Keisha, you selected are all energetic and passionate about the topic. And what a nice topic, new technologies, technology innovation, and really high tech, but really focusing not where high tech normally focus, which is the top of the pyramid, the top thing, but really high tech focusing on low income. And what a lot of progress technology has made, and we'll hear a lot about that. So Keisha gave me the honor to moderate this panel.
And I'm going to say goodbye now. I'm going to leave the five of you so that I can go and join the audience. So really looking forward to what you have to say. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Keisha. You can join the audience. Okay. So I don't know. I'm sure the audience has seen many of the very excellent and very relevant sessions. I was able to sit in some of today's, some of yesterday as well. Very relevant sessions. Especially some of the session that just took place before hours and after hours around everything is new, as we say, right? New partnerships is one of the topics, new neighborhoods, new investments, clearly a unique topic that has been discussed in the panel as well. New funding approaches, and yes, our topic, new technologies. What an exciting topic. Just before, I wanted to, a few words just to set the stage before I introduce our panel. We had the opportunity, which I think was great, is just as the panel members to get together a little bit before to discuss a little bit the different technologies that we are all supporting. We're all in different segments of technology, and we discussed some of the markets, the companies, the insights. But one thing I can assure the audience that we all feel that technology is absolutely ready to make a significant difference in the affordable housing topic. That I would say, as we discussed beforehand, we all feel that the time has come for us to take the lead in technology to really be utilized much faster and to accelerate the problem statement that we've heard so much of over the last day and a half. So really, technology is ready. I wanted to share 2 or 3 themes that we had discussed just before, and then I'll introduce our panel. We had discussed about technology. It's all about new technology, about new innovations, about disruption. Many of the traditional approaches that we've been hearing over and over again are just clearly not working. So that's what we're about. We're about new technologies. It's about sustainability. We discussed sustainability, inclusion, affordability. For instance, a lot of the themes in the earlier session, but when we had discussions around the fact that current mortgage systems are just not adequate for affordable housing. It's just not there. It's about the applicability of technology in Africa. It's not just about technology, but how do you apply technology and make it relevant for us in Africa? The good news is what I'm extremely excited about. There's a number of Africa First themes that are coming out, and just in our pre-discussion, some of the decentralized financing, some of the alternate banking models that are being introduced now through high tech, and we'll hear about this in our session. Industrialized construction, big data, AI, and so forth. Things that are coming into construction where Africa can actually take a lead globally, and that's for me is highly exciting. If we can, we'll hear a little bit of this. Technology has to be Africa ready. The theme of having technology and somewhere, it's clearly it has to be Africa ready was another theme we discussed. Technology is a tool. It's not the means to everything, but it's a tool to solve the problem. And the fact of life in the end is there's still over 70 million affordable housing backlog in Africa today. So the problem is huge. It is time to, some of us were saying it's time to sort of get into action, stop talking. There's many challenges we fully know. There's financial challenges, there's political, social, ecological. But I think new technology is ready. You will hear from the panel that there's many, and these are just a few of the technologies that are available and are ready to be utilized. And I think the time has come for technology to take a bit of the lead and break through this, I think, wait mode and bottleneck that many of us are in. And obviously, there's been a lot of challenges in the last 2 years with COVID and so forth. So without any further ado, as a start, I'm very happy to introduce my esteemed panel partners here today. I'll start by asking each member to shortly introduce yourselves as well as your company. So I'll start off with that. We have an hour total. I think we'll have a good opportunity to get to know who we are, as well as what the companies we are representing. And then there's a number of questions I'll be asking to see what are we doing today and where do we see the next steps going. So I'm going to start off by ask just name your names, and then if you can just give a very short introduction of yourself, your company. I see, where's Ronald? Ronald's there. Ronald Omyonga as Chief Relationship Officer from iBuild Global. iBuild, we've been working and been hearing so much about you guys, and you're doing so many things. Excellent. So Ronald, over to you.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. Thank you, Kisia, for organizing this. My name is Ronald Omyonga. I'm a co-founder and Chief Relationship Officer of iBuild Global. I'm an architect by training, and so that's really what inspires me in what I'm doing. And what iBuild does is that iBuild is a software company that aims to digitize the informal construction processes and transactions so that it makes it easier for users, the various users across the housing value chain to navigate that housing construction process. And if you just remember what Kisia presented when they presented their housing report this morning, you saw the focus. The running theme for me was the fact that the primary producer of housing is actually the household, followed by small construction or small developers. And that's what we focus in trying to make the work of that group of people easy so that we can introduce transparency to the process. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ronald. And I think the theme transparency, we will get back to that. Definitely, it's absolutely a core to what all of us are involved with. Thank you, Ronald. I want to then hand it over to Francois Perrault, who is the Managing Director for 14 Trees, been a long time involved in affordable housing. And Francois, you're doing so many exciting things. So over to you, Francois.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Carsten, and thank you, Keisha, also for the invitation to speak. A pleasure to be with you. So I'm Francois Perrault. I'm the Managing Director of 14 Trees. I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa, and 14 Trees is a joint venture company between Lafarge Holcim, now called Holcim, the world leader in cement and building materials, in joint venture with CDC Group, the UK impact investor. And our mission as 14 Trees is to accelerate technologies for affordable housing and also for the construction of schools and any social infrastructure. We've done that with the bricks that we roll out in a couple of countries. And we are also doing it with 3D printing, which we recently introduced in Africa. So happy to be on this panel and with all my fellow panelists.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Francois. That's very good and highly exciting for any of you who have looked what's happening in the market of 3D printing. In terms of venture capital around the world, it's one of the most exciting and most invested in technologies on the construction side of things. Potentially not as active yet in Africa, but huge amount of opportunities. And Francois is spearheading some of those activities. So very, very exciting. We're seeing these new digital construction technologies really address affordable housing, which is great to see. And I'm sure we're going to see much more of that in the years to come. Thanks, Francois. Then very exciting to introduce Glen Jordan. He's the co-founder from Empowa. very fundamental technology also, and very close to all of our hearts. So over to you, Glen.
Thanks, Carsten. Good morning, everybody. Nice to be here. Good to be with some talented panelists. Thank you. My name is Glen Jordan. I'm the co-founder of Empowa, and Empowa is a platform that is designed to link decentralized funding, decentralized financial inclusion, and sustainable building, utilizing new technologies. So we're really at the forefront of the new decentralized technologies, and looking at how we can disrupt the entire process by building a platform to enable funding to flow to those people who need it most.
Yes, very exciting. I think if one reads all the reports on, on crypto, on new ways to actually decentralize payments and so forth, there's so much happening. And again, as I said in the beginning, Africa is taking some of the lead. If you read some of the latest crypto results and so forth, and I'm sure, sorry, I'm maybe stealing a little bit of your thunder, but Glen, but Africa is very fast moving into new ways of this whole payment, and the mobile phone obviously plays a central role in terms of payment schemes and decentralization of finances. It's a huge activity, and obviously addressing that whole theme of financial products being ready for the affordable market. So I think we'll see, and we're seeing so much in that area. So I'll definitely come back to a lot of questions in that area. Thanks, Glen. So very excited also to introduce Anthony Modena, who is one of the co-founders and co-CEO with me on iLima Digital Foundry. I do want to take away just one piece of information before I introduce Anthony, and I'm really very proud about this. And Anthony will say a little bit more. You will be seeing today a press release, which we're extremely proud about that, and Anthony will talk a little bit more about that. But a press release announcing a major New York-based investment bank partnership with a company called iLima around affordable housing in Africa. So as part of, obviously we're talking about Africa, but I think a big piece of what we talk about at AUHF is really enthusing external investors, also major international investors, to see affordable housing is not just the topic, in Africa, it's a topic everywhere. So extremely pleased. There is a worldwide press announcement that's going out today on as iLima is launching that. Anthony, sorry, I steal a little bit of your thunder, but if you can just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about just iLima as such, that'll be great. Sorry for having taken a bit of that. You're on mute, Anthony.
Good morning, Carsten, and thank you. You're most welcome. I really appreciate this opportunity. My thanks to Keisha and CHF for yet again giving us the opportunity to participate in this particularly important process. iLima's vision is a home for anyone and everyone in a home. And much as what Glen has just said, we aim to use technologies to democratize the construction of housing. And iLima is wanting to disrupt the current construction processes using big data, AI, robotics, and industrialized technologies. We're really pleased to be working with people like 14 Trees and iBuild, and Empowa, Glen. We're all on the same idea, same pattern, but it is new in that we're putting together, in my mind, using a systems approach to put together platforms that will integrate many of the processes that are needed to address this need. Thank you, Carsten.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Very exciting, and again, I think it's getting additional international as well, Africa support to make this happen. Obviously, that's great news, and so we'll be asking a lot more questions around what iLima is doing there as well. Also, want to introduce Emeka Ndukwe, CEO of and co-founder of Foundary, a prop tech company. Again, looking at crowdfunding. It's another angle of how do we get funding, and what new mechanisms are there to look at the funding to specifically solve the housing crisis in Africa. So, Emeka, are you there? Yeah. Oh, Emeka, I'm not seeing him. Emeka? Oh. I thought Emeka was. He's most probably not here. Anyway, so we are missing one. We are missing one of our colleagues who I thought was here. I thought I saw him a little earlier on. He seems to not be on. But anyway, Foundary, Emeka was supposed to be here. He is Emeka is the CEO and co-founder of Foundary, which is a prop tech company wanting to democratize the financing and providing crowdfunding platform. Starting in Ghana, has got some very nice beginning customers, and really looking at providing that crowdfunding platform across Africa. So sorry, I thought Emeka was with us. So anyway, so it was obviously another angle in terms of technology. How do we use the latest funding methodologies, and crowdfunding clearly being one of those to address. Yes. So that was a short introduction to the topic. And again, if one just looks at some of the venture capital, and if one looks at the amount of venture capital funds inside construction technology, construction tech is what the theme is called. According to DataQuest, there's around $9 billion of current investment in construction tech, and then the next 7 years to 2026. This is supposed to grow by a factor of 18% CAGR, about 3x of what it is today, to about $27 billion purely in the construction tech. So technology is very, very quickly moving, as construction was kind of the last big area where funding or investment and newer digital technologies moved into. Manufacturing went much earlier and under other industries, but we're seeing, just according to some of the forecasts of people like DataQuest and so forth, seeing that a rapid increase in funding in construction tech, and we're all part of that puzzle. And my view is that there's a number of areas where Africa can be a first in terms of, especially around affordable housing, which really covers such a large volume. So I'm going to get back to you, Ronald. Just a little bit in terms of some of the applications that you're seeing right now. iBuild has been, you pretty well established in a number of countries in Africa. Maybe you share with us a few of the examples that where you used and where the more digital and transparent iBuild platform is being used, so that we can get a bit of an idea of practically what's happening in your area.
Thank you so much, Gaston. I will focus for this particular presentation on just what we have done in Kenya. And right now, in Kenya, we have over 50,000 users on the platform. And this includes over 37,000 construction workers. We have 3,500 contractors, around 5,600 homeowners, and around 1.8 thousand suppliers on the platform. And this, I'm using this to illustrate what iBuild does, in the sense that from the report that CHF presented this morning, it was very clear that construction, that the primary supply of construction is households themselves and small developers. And that's where iBuild starts its activity. We start by trying to link the people who play at that level, starting with the homeowner. We create for them a tool that enables them to be able to create a project, to be able to find contractors, and then be able to manage the projects they are doing, whether they are operating in the diaspora or they are within Kenya and building in a different city. They're able to do that with using their mobile phone. And that means that it's really helping meet a certain pain point for the homeowner. In the same platform, we provide services for contractors to be able to find jobs, so that they are able to create profiles. And then by those profiles, homeowners can browse contractors and then can contact them and ask for quotes. And they are able to then enter into an engagement where they are able to start managing the project, and contractors are able to hire construction workers and are able to manage and pay their workers using the the platform, and also even source supplies. What does this do? What it does is that it makes the work of the contractor easier in terms of accessing work, but it also creates a record of what they're doing so that they can use that to look for a loan or something like that. And then it starts creating financial products for them and access to capital. The same for the homeowner is that now they will have a basis on which they can seek financing from elsewhere to be able to manage their projects, to be able to put, to fund some of their projects and also be able to manage. And there's an important thing there that using digital platforms enables the homeowner to be able to manage a project even when they're working in Nairobi, for instance, and they're building in a different city, so that introduces transparency and ensures that the money that the homeowner has invested is actually going to the construction process. And it also ensures that he only pays for work that he or she only pays for work that has already been done because it's based on milestones. When you go to the lowest of the base here, the construction worker, and that's why we were saying we are responding to the need on the ground. That high tech does not mean complex, but dealing with the low income does not mean having sloppy technology. In architecture, we say simple is very complex. So if you are going to deal with the lowest of the lowest, you need to have high tech that can do that. And that's what iBuild does, is that we are able to enable a construction worker to use their digital, their feature phones, which are not smartphones, because we realize that construction workers might not have smartphones. They are able to create profiles on their feature phones, and they are able to get alerts whenever they have jobs, there are job opportunities within their area. What does that do is that it introduces efficiency in the way they search for jobs, and then they are able to be paid using digital platforms. And so they also create a financial industry for them and start them on a path towards financial inclusion so that they also can become homeowners themselves. And then these three people, who is the homeowner, the construction worker, and the contractor, we then link them to a supplier so that now we are creating supply chain so that you can also be able to order materials remotely and only pay when materials are delivered. So that entire integration is the basis of iBuild, that it enables what currently happens in a very informal setting to be able to happen in some way where you can track. And once you do this, once you create this environment, then you start attracting capital into this space. You attract financial service providers to be able to pump in money, because now they can track how those funds are being used. You can also create an environment where insurance services can be offered to even construction workers. For example, Britam is offering now accident cover for construction workers, because now they are on a certain platform. So that's what we do. And then iBuild starts to build from there to be able to create a system that not only enables a homeowner who is doing one building to do, but a small developer who is doing a few 20 houses, 10 to 20 houses, and then builds to that to a level where we can even manage for large developers. So we build from down going up, and we are very responsive to what the market says. And as I said, and as you said, Kirsten, technology is a tool. And if technology is going to succeed in Africa, you have to start by understanding the problem and the challenges in Africa. And you develop solutions for that. And then technology just empowers you to develop the solutions that match the needs for Africa. And that's what I will say for now. You know, if you allowed me, I'll just take the 1 hour.
No, thanks, Ronald. I mean, it is actually for the audience. That was the problem. I think that's why Keisha chose me as the moderator, because every now and then I have to stop, because it is true. We are passionate. Technology really has an opportunity. You know, we do find that there's many people admiring problems and so forth. A lot of conferences are always showing the numbers, but But I think technology is really moving pretty fast, and we feel that there's the time for us to really roll up our sleeves and get going. And thanks, Ronald. I mean, it's amazing. If one just looks at iBuild as such, and you say 50,000 users already, I think was the number you said, just for Kenya alone. If you can see the way that the platform connects, as you said, the homeowner, the contractor, the developer, lots of decisions get made. It's much more transparent. You know, there's so many things that this tool, and it's not just the high-end phones, but also, so it's a technology that's been used. So it's definitely something that it's just motivating if one hears about these newer technologies and that level of usage today already. So thank you, Ronald, and I'll get back to one or two more questions, especially around the marketplace, because I think the concept here is the marketplace of multiple people getting access to information, and that's a very exciting direction there. All right, I'm going to go over to Francois. And Francois, obviously, you've been very involved through a number of years in both the on the financing side, microfinancing side, but now also on the technology side, 3D printing, as well as your burnt bricks. So different ways to construction technology. Okay, so maybe just walk us through a little bit. You know, the burnt bricks, what the background is there, why that is a potential good solution for affordable housing. But also walk us, 3D printing, one always thinks, wow, that's only for, the developed countries. And so you have specifically, and I really take my hat off, because it's not easy to get this level. But if we can get 3D printing in, it's exciting. I think you've done the first school in Africa with 3D. It's highly fascinating. So Francois, share with us a little bit, how you go with the brick and why that is important. And then, how do you go to 3D printing from there?
Yes, thank you, Karsten. So basically what we believe is that there are plenty of good technologies that can be used for affordable housing, that most of them are already available either in the labs of big firms or in some startups, and we have plenty of examples. So what we've done is that we assessed a lot of technologies to make sure that we understand those technologies and the segments, the specific segments that they can serve. Because it's not just one technology or the other, it's about using the technology where it is best suited, depending on the country, depending on the segments that you're targeting, self-construction or contractors, big projects, small projects, schools, homes, and so on. So the first technology that we started our company with, which we were focused on, was called DuraBrick. We did not invent that soil-stabilized technology, soil-stabilized brick technology. It's something that even the Romans have been using 2,000 years ago. But what was missing is the capacity to produce it on the large scale. And it's always the chicken and the egg. Is it the technology that should come first, or is it the people asking for that technology first? We decided to do it, to make that investment and start producing that brick in Malawi, where we have basically 4 plants, 2 fixed plants that are serving the 2 big cities of Malawi, Blantyre and Lilongwe, and 2 mobile plants that can produce bricks on the job sites with contractors to be able to supply them and involve the local communities in the manufacturing of those bricks. We found that technology to be brilliant. We replicated it in other countries, Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, and some others. But what we noticed is that brick and mortar has one big limitation, which is the speed of construction. So we came to the conclusion that in Malawi, where there is a need for more than 40,000 classrooms, even if we have unlimited funding, it would take more than 70 years for the contractors of Malawi with brick and mortars to complete all those classrooms. So we tried to say, okay, what can be the technology, the next technology that will bring disruption and make the sector able to produce these 40,000 classrooms in, say, a generation time, or let's say 10 years, so at least every child who is born today has the chance to go to school at some point in Malawi. Yeah. And the technology we picked is 3D printing. And what I like to say about 3D printing is that it's just the start. It's a journey. What is fascinating is that it's a clear disruption. It's the introduction of digital fabrication in construction. It's never been done before. And it's just the beginning. There's a lot of things to optimize in the way the printers are designed, in the cost of those printers. But what we see is that when you start that optimization work, then you get fantastic results. And that's why we are very optimistic, and we are replicating, we are using that technology in different countries. We just printed a house 2 weeks ago in Kenya, We came with the printer, we erected it, and we printed the walls in a couple of hours. It doesn't come without problems. I mean, it's still a nascent technology, but clearly it has CO2 benefits, it has affordability benefits, and it creates jobs that are more qualified. So these were the three criteria that made us choose that technology as the kind of next generation technology that we want to introduce. And while we introduce it, we're also working on making Africa ready for that technology, working with local engineers, working with association of architects to be sure that they start having in mind digital fabrication so that in the next 5 to 10 years, that becomes a reflex for them to start using that technology.
Yeah, no, Francois, thank you very much. And again, I think it's a beautiful example how technology is moving so fast, and really we're in the middle of that, and you're having some real applications in Malawi, and I think this whole digital fabrication, if one thinks about it, you're cutting off, you're speeding up. I mean, a lot of cost of affordability. The more we look at it and we look at cost, the materials is one thing, but time is money. And most of these houses that get built these days, I don't know if we've actually, in the yearbook, I don't know if we've actually looked at average times that houses built by country or so, but normally the time is such a money factor, and there's all sorts of issues that happen, you know, from beginning, and the bricks don't get used, or lots of wastage, all sorts of things. But the time factor is obviously huge, and then the difference between the architectural drawing and the actual, and so the digital fabrication factor is coming in very fast. It's going to be a total innovation and disruptor big time. And I know it's definitely coming. So thanks for sharing your experience in that space. Another highly experienced, exciting area for me is, affordable housing. We spoke about costs right now, and we speak about the fact that, we have 50,000 users already in Kenya on the platform, and the more digital, the more transparent you can be is good. And then you see the new digital way to much faster and save with time, save money. But a massive factor, if one looks at the overall affordability of housing, the massive factor is really the financing. And looking at current mortgages. In fact, I spoke to Glen a little bit, and he was saying, I think just in Mozambique alone, it seems like there's, close to 30 million people as the inhabitants, and only 700 mortgages in the whole country. Well, that says there's zero mortgages. So it means that there's the product just doesn't fit what is required. So much is happening in this whole space of diversifying financing. So tell us a little bit more into the actual practical examples where you have a number of very exciting pilot projects. Explain to us a little bit how this is potentially a new way of looking at mortgages, of looking at financing that could dramatically, this is not a small incremental change. This is a massive change, and crypto and all this blockchain is all linked to that. So Glen, tell us a little bit about this, because I think all of us around the table, the panel, financing is a massive part of what we're doing. And combining that into our solution is going to accelerate a lot of things. So, Glen, you give us some insights there.
Yeah, thanks, Carsten. As Francois said, the technology journey it's a journey, and the joy of what we're doing is that there are new technologies and there are new ways of approaching things. And I think part of that is as you've said, things have not worked. It's as simple as that. Things are not working. We know, particularly in Africa. And so that gives us an opportunity to really open and free our minds, particularly in terms of what we can do and what we can try and implement with new technologies. And as you say, the cost of financing and getting financing to the right people at an affordable price is the fundamental challenge. And the whole premise of decentralization of new technologies, of the blockchain technologies, is this kind of decentralization. And this it's what it's about. It's about putting people in touch with people, person to person, decentralization, taking away the centralized decision makers that are effectively, often are the blockages around it. And I use that as an example, just because, even in South Africa, where we're working, we know that there is a huge opportunity in the township environment. There is a huge demand in the township environment, and yet funding is not flowing into those areas. Why? And we start to look at it, and it's structural. It's structural. There are a number of issues that prevent that from happening. There are a number of the rules, the regulations, the gatekeepers, the institutions, the learnings, the mindsets. All of those things combine together to create this blockage of funds flowing. And I think technology and decentralization presents us the opportunity to enable funds to flow from wallet to wallet, as opposed through a centralized process. And so that's really what we're looking at, is how can we use the power of decentralized finance, and DeFi in itself is a new concept, and to take it and put it into RealFi, which is also a new term now. I mean, we're coming up with language as we develop, is taking and integrating the crypto world or the digital world into the real world. And how do we find real world applications for that? And that's what we're doing at Empowa. And so also we're at the beginning of the journey. It's the start of the journey. We know we've got a long way to go, but we're excited about the potential that this technology offers. And we've implemented, we're busy with our first project in Mozambique, and looking at that, funding the first eco houses in Mozambique, the first eco-friendly houses in Mozambique. And the whole thing around it is it's about connecting, and heard earlier in the presentation as well about partnership. It's about connecting people. And the thing around platforms and decentralization is that's what it does. That's what they do, is they link people to people and resources to people, as opposed to trying to do a centralized approach and come up with a centralized solution. So as Ronald has said, it's about linking people, it's about linking institutions, it's around linking needs to suppliers. It's how do we do that in an effective way, in a transparent way, and in an auditable way that is traceable. And that's what decentralized technology does. And it's trustless. So again, it's around building trust. So instead of having to rely on what is our trust system? Do we have a trust? Does somebody have a record, which is the historical way? We say you start with nothing and you build trust. And that's how you build yourself into the financial system, how you build reputation, and how you start to get access to resources. And that's a key part around the building blocks of what we're doing, and a fundamental shift in the mindset, and how we believe that we can actually allow the resources to flow to where they're needed most.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. And it is interesting to see some of the statistics. There's about 600 fintech companies funded in Africa, about 90 in South Africa. So I've been looking a little bit into some of the statistics. One of the best funded industries today in Africa is the fintech industry. We know Empowa. I think Empowa has got close to 150 million users already today. But if you just look in Africa, 600 fintech, of which some of the underlying technology, Glen has spoke a little bit about the whole trust, but the underlying decentralization is all based on some very, very new, latest state-of-the-art technology in some of the marketing slang called blockchain and artificial intelligence. Clearly, blockchain being able to decentralize versus everything being centralized. And as we know, banking systems, the current banks are very centralized. That's the system that's been working for the past 100 years. And now this new decentralized underlying, data technology gives you, it's called distributed ledger technologies. These are technologies, but that give you the opportunity to actually decentralize. And under the Empowa product that Glen has spoken about, the underlying technology obviously is highly, highly interesting. And again, Africa is taking it very, very fast and this is not just high-end phones, but even very low-end phones that are able to transact today, and you'll see more and more of this coming. And this is dramatically going to affect and accelerate the ability to build affordable housing. So that's really very, very exciting there. Thanks, Glen. I want to now go over to Anthony. As Anthony mentioned with iLima, looking at the data and housing is obviously housing. There's one piece, it's the build piece, the other one's the finance piece. But before you even start building, you need to look at planning. So you need to plan something. You need to get certain investments. You need to do feasibilities. Once you've done the feasibilities, you need to design things. what you want, normally, and then you need to build things, and then you need to operate things. And obviously there's lots of costs associated. And iLima has been very active in looking not just at a short term, either build the plant, but really the whole life cycle. So why don't you take us through a little bit, Anthony, as to, iLima, some of the lessons that we've learned, and some of the applications that we see very dramatically, where Africa is going to be a leading force in the world, really, as to drive some of this data-driven, I would say, construction is kind of the area where you're in.
Thanks, Carsten. So our panel members have all mentioned elements of the puzzle that we're trying to solve. Francois, in terms of the vast need and the scale that's needed to develop houses. Glen, the blockages. Ronald, the connecting of individuals. When we started thinking about this process, we were looking at how do we industrialize construction. The growth of people the young people in Africa has been so enormous and people have been working on trying to solve, how to house them, how to educate them, how to ensure that they have meaningful work lives. That problem is so vast, and we've been taking so long to get this resolved that if you just look at the homes, I think in all of the major countries in Africa, there are at least 3.5 million homes, 3.5 million backlog in homes in any one of the major countries in Africa. That's just the backlog, let alone what the need is. So trying to do it in the way that it was done in the 19th or 20th century isn't going to work. And Francois is correct. Some of the technologies have been available all the while. In fact, the Roman technology, the Romans building their construction techniques are still valid today. But we can't. It has to be done at a different scale and a different rate. Now, at the turn of the previous century, when Ford started building his motor cars, his people couldn't afford a motor car until he put together the manufacturing process. His aim was to see that every one of his employees could buy his own motor car. And I liken, in like manner, I think that's what we need to do with the construction industry. Some people will want 3D homes. Some people will want the block home. But how do you get them to be able to do that in the scale and in the time to make it cost effective? How do you link the different people, the bankers, the lawyers, the deeds registry office? We have a process here in South Africa called Spluma that is such a, Glen was talking about blockages. My goodness, if we got to work through that, we'll never get to the solving the problem. So we've got to find a way to use technology while we have to keep the safety and maintain the integrity of the buildings and the safety and the comfort of the homes. We've got to find a way to still have that safety, but process it faster. And that's where our premise is, that we put together, using, much as Glen said, use a platform to network all of the producers and the users as they are required. So bring together manufacturing processes, just-in-time technologies, and a number of these technologies together to help rapidly produce the houses that are needed. The only way we're going to solve it is to find ways of rapidly generating homes and building homes. So some of the products we've been working on are you will know many of them yourselves already. We don't want to invent what Autodesk and other folk have been doing. Revit is a good product, but how do you give the output from Revit as an input to the construction guys that they can use? How can you once the construction guys have done that, how can you give that output as an input through to the bankers that need to authorize that? And the banker, for instance, might be in New York that's financing it, might be in New York that's got to finance a house. How is he going to check and make sure that that house that he's financing was actually put onto the ground? We can do that now with technologies that will immediately, within minutes, put together the information that's needed. Take it through using AI and other big data techniques we can speed up a lot of these matters. So some of the products that we're looking at is looking at, if we're looking at the community as a product, we see the community consists of a number of homes, schools, houses, shops, malls, police stations, all sorts of needs to make a viable community live. We believe that designing the community as a product is one of the solutions that we can look at. And then within that community, the houses, the building as a product, looking at the building as a product, and people can choose different buildings that they like. Some people will want a round building, some will want a square building, some will want a square building with rounded corners. How do we give the people that choice, but still maintain the scale? So we're looking at things like that. And we're thinking of integrating 3D printing the normal construction techniques. But the people that choose those techniques need to know that the price will be different. But again, looking at the scale and the pricing, we think that by using digital technologies across the value chain, we can solve many of the blockages. So that's what iLima is busy working on. We don't think we're going to solve all of these problems. And that's why we're working together with folk like Francois and Ronald and Glen. We don't think that we know that we can't do it, and we need to work together, and we believe that a platform can do it. And our platform is called the ASIP, the African Construction Innovation Platform. And that's what we're going to be using to develop and assist in trying to address this industrialization of construction.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. That's very good. And again, I think there's not one single technology that's going to solve it all. I think the new world of big data and cloud and so forth allows us more than ever before to really work with clever API, clever ways together to actually offer holistic solutions versus point tool solutions. And so that's why we think technology is right now to really look at a complete problem, like you're saying. How do you configure a community where you have community inputs, you have all sorts of data inputs, and before you plan it, you then design it, you then build it, and then you operate it. And there's a life cycle cost that you look at the whole thing. Cost is not just one thing. It's not just how much a brick costs. It's actually how much it costs to design it, to plan it, to build it, and to operate it. And most of the cost, actually 80% of the cost is in your operations phase, but in your design phase, you decide many, many factors that later will affect your cost. Anyway, that's very interesting, Anthony. Thank you for that. Can
I say one other thing? I forgot about the digital twin, which is key to putting the design back to what is actually built.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna. In terms of time, you know, what I've been thinking, what could be kind of our closing is, as we all have experience as to, and we're all innovative, disruptive companies. None of us have done this for 20 years. And I think the solution, as we said, of building, I think Select Africa spoke about 500 million homes in Africa, or this is 40,000 homes a day. So even the backlog, as you said, there's 70,000 backlog. The traditional ways just cannot do it. So we need to have new innovative ways to address the problem. But the question that I always have, as you bring in new innovation, and especially if we say this innovation is going to be addressing high tech for low income, how do we actually get the people who are going to accelerate? What are the drive? Who are the first movers? As we know, we've all learned, you know, as you bring in new innovative things, you need to find those first movers that actually accelerate. You know, there's various books about, you know, as the old institutional people normally don't like to change. So you're talking about change. So who are those first movers? And I'm just going to quickly go around the table. You know, for each of our experiences, who is going to move so that the rest of the people move faster as well? That's really what I think could be of interest to all of us, is who's going to make that first step. And maybe some thoughts around that. I know we didn't prepare this question, but I just wanted all of your thoughts. Francois, you laughing? I'm going to ask you first. If you would say who are going to be the people who are going to accelerate, because those are the people we want to see and then really accelerate. Who would you say are the ones?
Actually, it has to be us. I mean, you know, the beauty with construction is that it's something you can touch, it's something you can feel. And if people don't touch those technologies, don't feel those technologies, then they simply don't buy. I mean, for someone to invest $10,000 or $15,000 in a new home, it's the investment of his life or her life. So we need to show them that the technologies we have are the best and that have truly an impact without compromising on quality. And that means that we need to find some partners to do that first move together with us, to move away from just the pilot house, because everybody can build a pilot house, and we have plenty of examples of pilot houses. But really, how do we move into scale, into a real project that people will be able to buy and enjoy on a large scale? That's the challenge. And here, you need some people who follow you in terms of taking the first mover risk, and hopefully there are some in the big industries, in the NGO sector, even in the UN world. So we will be making announcements later in the year or early next year around that. But yeah, you need to find like-minded people to move from the pilot to the commercial scale.
Very good. No, I think that's a good point. Ronald, did you want to add anything from, finding that first mover? I think, and you have definitely found, 50,000 in Kenya. that's, a lot of us are dreaming of those kind of numbers. So maybe share, what are the first movers you're looking at to accelerate going forward?
So there are two approaches. When you're going the market approach, where you're opening up the market, the way we've done the Kenyan way, the first thing is that you look at who are the players along the value chain and what are the incentives for them to participate. So for example, we have a homeowner. What are their challenges? Why would they want to be part of that? So what solutions are you creating that wants them to come? If you go to the construction worker, what are their pain points and what incentive structure are you creating for them? And the same with a contractor, they're looking for work. Are you creating a situation where they can be able to come in and work and find work? And you see, when you find the pain point, and the same with a material supplier, they're trying to find market. Are you providing that market for them? So when you create an incentive structure that is relevant to each of the market segments, then once you bring these players together, then you attract somebody else who is the financier. The financier capital has been wanting to play in this informal housing space when it was still informal, but it was too chaotic. Once you start organizing it, then it becomes attractive for capital to come in and other players to come in. So it's that way if you are approaching it from the market first. But again, it's expensive. But there are other markets where you'll go to, and based on the story you've had in another market, for example, in Kenya, then you start off with a player who is bigger, let's say a financial institution that is already active in a certain market. But they are facing certain challenges that your solution is supporting. For example, in India, we are working with Mahindra. Mahindra is already in the rural housing space, and they are facing certain challenges. So we go in partnership with a business and offer a solution to them, and that opens the channel for us to enter the bigger market. So right. the approaches differ, but from where I sit and based on our example is that you first need to go and test the water so that you have something to show before now you can now have the more efficient systems where you identify a large market player like a serious material supplier like Francois, for example, can take me somewhere and I ride upon him and take advantage of his market network to be able to enter the market and vice versa. Yeah.
Right. No. Thank you, Ronald. That's very insightful. Glen, did you want to add some of that in terms of first movers and going to market? And you got the fintech products. Are you still there, or have we? Oh, you're still there. Sorry. I'm not seeing you. So, first movers. You are very much in the first mover space right now. But how do you see? There's this bit of a topic that Francois brought in. There's the pilot and there's the scale. So, yeah. So how do you bring that dynamic?
Absolutely, and I think 100% right, Francois. Lots of pilots and not enough at scale. But I think that for us, it's really quite simple. It's you mentioned, Carsten, 600 mortgages in a country of 30 million people. It's pretty obvious that something's not working. Okay, so for us, it's relatively easy because it's really quite simple to come into a market that we know, as Ronald says, we know there is pent up demand. We know that so it's really around connecting those two issues. Absolutely. And if we can find that it's
that's the way forward, right?
That's the way forward. So it's not a question of lack of demand. It's not a question of that the market's not there. It's just a mechanism of how do we meet that market? How do we meet that market at the level of which the market is operating, instead of trying to impose the rules that we're used to? How do we do that? How do we meet their needs? As Ronald has said, that's the key to what we're looking at.
Absolutely. Thanks, Anthony. You've got just a quick minute, and then I need to wrap up. I've got the flag here that I've got 5 minutes left. So just in terms of how do we move pilot scale? What's your impression here? How can we accelerate this? How do we find the right first movers?
So, Carsten, I believe the first movers are in Africa, and it's in the young people in Africa. If we look at what's happened with Bitcoin and the blockchain, Kenya is a world leader right now in that technology. Our people in Africa are leaders in using and applying technologies and new technologies. They've picked up on the cell phone technologies very quickly, and we can use them anywhere now. Right.
Okay. I think that's good. Let me add one more cent of my background on this specific question, which is, looking at the private sector, the mining sector, and the public sector. Those are the three sectors that we as a company have been looking at. Why housing? Because mining. Why mining sector? Because there is social housing, and sometimes all the permitting and so forth is not quite the same level of detail than what you have on the public sector or private sector. We find that especially in the that pilot stage is that potentially the private sector can move faster. And then the scaling piece could be the public sector. So that's one thing that we're looking at, that dynamic. You have the private sector that's ready to try new things. The public sector is talking about it, but they don't have the means ready to go. And so that's one sector that we have seen. Finally, I think what's important is also the pain point, as Ronald discussed. We found in looking at the complete value chain, from planning, designing, building, operating, the whole value chain, the developer right now is the guy who sits with the biggest risk and the biggest cost from day one. And so that's the biggest pain point. So if one could really look at, how do you provide tools and information to design, build, operate from a developer perspective, and look at his pain points and try to automate some of those pain points and address those pain points step by step. That we found is kind of a go-to-market that could potentially accelerate. Anyway, guys, I know we've come to the end. I've got a flag of about 3 minutes left. I personally just wanted to say, it was, I know, and I'm hoping from all the audience, if there's any people from the audience, I like to actually end by saying, I think we shared with you, audience, all of our ideas as to, where are we with these certain technologies. It's exciting because we're all from different angles of technology. You can see we've got some similarities in our message. What would be extremely useful, especially with our audience, and there's developers in our audience, there's financiers in our audience. We just spoke about a larger U.S. investment banking that are investing in some of the companies in Africa, which is great for affordable housing. So we're seeing some of that. But I'd really like the audience, we're wrestling with the question, how can we accelerate? The technology is there. There's not a doubt anymore. The big data is able to connect many of the individual tools. So there's new things available. And I think we should accelerate getting houses to people who need it by not thinking about all the problems, but by actually showing that these things can be done. So I'd really appreciate, especially some of the audience, I'm sure you've got some bright ideas of what technology could be doing. We'd like to hear back from you. I think there's mechanisms to capture your questions, and all of us are clearly interested in solving the problem. And I think technology has a great chance to take the lead. So with that, I've got 1 minute left. I wanted to thank the panel here, all of you guys. It was great to work together. Keisha, thank you for giving us that opportunity. I'm hoping we're getting a more of a consolidated message. Technology is a tool. Technology is not something that one technology is going to solve. Not one of us around the table is going to have all the answers. But I'm as the moderator, I want to thank the panelists. It was great working together. I'm sure we'll be working together even beyond this, which is the other great part of it. But anybody from the audience, we'd much appreciate any of your feedback. So Keisha, back to you.